So good morning, everyone. I'm Ruben. I'll be moderating our panels today. Thank you all for joining us at the Next Steps Career Exploration Conference. This annual conference is very important because we provide our students with a preview of the unique journeys of those from diverse industries. I'm Ruben. I am the communications associate and speaking on behalf of the co-op. We are so excited that you guys are joining us today and that we, get to do this because I think that it's a very unique experience. Our first panel, of course, is hospitality and tourism, which is a significant industry, not just in DC, but all over the world. Careers in this field involve management, marketing, and operations for recreation and travel related services. And I can't wait to learn about what you guys, your involvement within that industry. We'll begin shortly, but again, I'm really excited to learn and ask the questions that we all want to know. So thank you all for being a part of this. But we'll be getting started very shortly with the questions. So everyone be ready. Don't be nervous. And yeah, thank you again. So I don't know, Zoom is always so interesting because you'll see everyone lined up a certain way and then everyone else sees it's all jumbled. But I would love it if you all can do a round table esque introduction of yourselves and tell what part of the industry you are. I see Nathan first. So Nathan, I'm calling you out first. And just popcorn it to someone.
Okay. Right. So I'm Nathan Hegan. I'm the Director of Educational Travel at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, Louisiana. So we're not in DC. It surprises some people. I work in the museum, but most of my life is spent establishing partnerships in foreign countries, places where World War II happened. So France, Germany, Japan, China, Philippines, so a lot of Europe and Asia. So most of my life is spent traveling, establishing those partnerships, running the tours, sometimes a tour guide, sometimes tour manager, and sometimes in my office doing catch-up work for accounting and explaining currency variations. So I'll toss it over to Kelsey.
Sorry. Hi, good morning. I'm Kelsey. So I work in commercial real estate right now as a co-working community manager down at the Wharf in Washington, DC. So basically my day-to-day is running the office center, making sure that clients have what they need, booking meeting rooms, setting up new offices for new clients that we have in the building. And yeah, so I'm in Washington, DC. I will pass it to David.
Hey everyone, I'm David Breisch. I am Senior Director of Marketing for Destinations International. We are a trade association that supports convention and visitors bureaus and tourism boards, et cetera, all over the country. So we are very heavily involved in destination promotion. So for example, if anyone is familiar with Destination DC is a member of ours, New Orleans and Company is a member of ours. So we really advocate for the promotion of tourism and travel to destinations all over the world. Oh, sorry, I guess. Nina would be the last one.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Anita Mattis. I'm the Director of Talent and Culture for Rosewood, Washington, DC. Our lovely property is right here behind me. I'm located centrally in Georgetown, right off the C&O Canal. I've been in hospitality and most importantly in HR for probably about 13 years. Just in my title, Talent and Culture, I support all of our lovely associates and their journey in hospitality. And then culture, I continue to try to build on what we do here and supporting and building great relationships with our guests, with our associates, with the community. So I am embedded in the day-to-day operations of the hotel. I love it. I enjoy supporting new people that find hospitality a calling, or people that aren't aware of hospitality and what that looks like and all the different departments and divisions where they can grow their career. And I'm happy to be here and help answer any questions. This is really a passion of mine. So thank you for having me.
Ruben, you're muted.
Good call. I thank you for being here. And a common thread of what I heard is experience. No matter like what you guys are doing there, that to a degree is very important, right? Can you guys speak on that, and if in what interested you in the careers that you have set for yourselves?
Yeah, I can start, I guess. So I actually have kind of an interesting background. So I was actually a computer science major in college. And I think that so just back up a little bit. So yeah, I was a computer science major. I actually got involved in the industry because my college advisor at the time recommended me for a job with the local Convention and Visitors Bureau back in when I lived in Illinois at the time. So I got involved with website development for the local CBB, promoting that community. I lived in the Quad Cities of Illinois, Iowa, if anyone knows where that is. But I got involved with promoting the destination as part of that organization, working on the website, and then just, fell in love with the industry. I just love tourism and hospitality and all the people that are here and the incredible opportunities that it offers. But I think it kind of speaks to the way, or, there's all different kinds of backgrounds that people can have going into this industry. I think it's a great variety of folks that can join the industry no matter what skill set you have.
I think David makes a good point about experience and just kind of what your background is, not necessarily having to be exactly what you do. I studied English literature, and now I work in hospitality and office spaces. So not exactly what I expected to do right out of college. But I knew I liked working with people. I knew I liked living in a city. So I started by working for Marriott, and that's what kind of got me into the city and kind of understanding how hospitality worked. And hotels just have like a different level of customer service and the way that they cater to their clients. So I learned that very early on, and that experience has kind of carried me through to where I am now. So kind of no matter what you study, what you do, it's more about the experience that you gain along the way.
Like David, I'm from Illinois, probably about 4.5, 5 hours south of where he was. I'm almost to Kentucky. But I moved to New Orleans in 2014, and I would not have even known that my job existed. I studied history because I wanted to be a coach. And I think that's a pretty common thread, especially in small town America. I wanted to be the track and field coach, and every track and field or football or baseball coach I knew taught history. So I thought that was my path to go forward and to coach something. But I got into history. I moved to New Orleans. I was a high school teacher at first. And there's this fantastic private run National Museum of World War II, and it just tells a fantastic story. So I was always on the outlook for job openings there. I mean, I would have done anything to have worked here. And the first job that I saw was in the education department, doing programs both in the museum and going out to the local schools. And when the museum wanted to send high school students and college students overseas to France to study World War II, where it happened, they asked if I was interested. I said yes. And that led, I started doing that 7 years ago. That led to my current role of establishing travel programs for adults and students all over the world. And it was just a series of happy accidents, and the fact that I never said no to anything that might have seemed unfamiliar, confusing, or difficult when it was first proposed.
I just want to say the experience of working with people is so relevant to hospitality, and your love of travel and food. That's one of the reasons that I found it to be my calling. I started thinking I wanted to be a teacher and support others in some way, and ended up in payroll in HR, and then just continue to build on what I love to do, supporting others. And then I realized how much I love to explore the world. And there's so many opportunities with hospitality where it's a benefit that we get as employees. And then if you love food and want to work in restaurants, I mean, and the benefits of, working with great chefs and cooks has been great. So your love of food and travel, if you have that experience, even working in very small establishments, is so applicable. All experience of working with people is so relevant to hospitality.
That I'm glad you said that last part, because I was going to ask you all, you both, or all of you, in essence, started somewhere that is not necessarily where you are within hospitality, right? Like, you strive to, Nathan, become a history teacher, and Usain Bolt's coach. David, you with computer science. What skills or talents did you guys build to make this transition happen for you, for yourselves? And was it an easy transition? I would imagine having a love for being and talking with people and cultivating experiences would be a really good, like, foundational aspect. But yeah, talk more about those skills that you had to hone in on to get where you are.
So I was in school, I was not a very good public speaker. I would dread those, do a 2-minute presentation on a state you were assigned, or talk about your pet, or whatever it was that English or geography class would make you do. And that was something I first had to overcome when I was a teacher for a while. When I moved into more business oriented things like travel, I get to have fun. I get to go to all these places. I get to meet great people, but there was a business side that was really scary. Making these tours profitable, making them able to continue, following up on the spreadsheets, working with a marketing department, coming up with language that would sell these programs that I design. And that was all scary for me at first. There's sort of a lack of confidence that can be there at first. Like, who would want to pay money to do something that I work in, that I developed? And overcoming that initial fear of putting myself out there was probably the hardest part. And then the skills started to come in. The more I worked and the more I connected with my colleagues, the more I interacted, the skills started to all fall into line. And it's now almost a second nature that I create something, it goes to marketing, it goes to sale, and all of a sudden numbers come in. But it took some time and perseverance to build that confidence to do that.
Yeah, I think putting yourself out there is really good advice. I think that's really important. I also want to add and piggyback off of that a little bit also, because, and I had earlier used the phrase exploring the world, which I really love that phrase. But I mean, I think that's so important, and just being curious in general and being open to new ideas and new perspectives and open to learning new things, in addition to putting yourself out there, I think is really, really important. It's such a great industry and such a friendly industry. Like people are always willing to teach each other and learn from each other. And I think being open to new ideas and exploring new ideas with people is really important.
I saw the question about like the hardest part of the job. And I was just thinking about when I started out, how I kind of struggled with what people call imposter syndrome, where I felt like I didn't quite have the same amount of skills as my colleagues, or I felt like I might fall short because I study at a certain college or get the right grades. But I realized, like David and Nathan were saying, that as I learned and as I leaned on my network and the people that I worked with, my colleagues, I was gaining those skills to keep pushing me forward and propelling me into my next position. And everyone kind of struggles with that at some point in their career, where they feel like they might not have the skills to do it right. But it's like, my parents always remind me, like, they hired you because you have the skills, because they see the potential in you, because they know what you can do. And I think keeping that in mind when I go into job interviews, when I'm meeting new people, when I am networking, just that we're all constantly learning and we're all constantly gaining these new skills that are going to push us to do more. So pushing that fear to the side and like persevering, super important. You'll gain the skills as you go. There are things that like Nathan said, are like second nature now that I used to be so afraid to do, or so afraid to make decisions and make the wrong one. But all of the decisions fall in line and you'll find your niche.
So I'm glad that you picked up one of the questions from the chats, because we've been getting some very fabulous questions. So thank you all for asking away in the chat, and keep them coming. I want to actually pick a question from the chat, and I would love if you all can answer. I guess, let's see, do you all still think a lot about the job that you wanted at first?
So I do. I'm still a distance runner, and that's what wanted to get me into coaching track and field and cross country. And in the summer when I'm in town, I go to these free 2-mile races that a local track club puts on, and all of the high schools that run locally come out, and I see the high school students running. I see them interact with their coach, and I get these little moments of, man, if I really would love to go back and coach some kind of running activity again. I kind of get that urge, and then I go back to my office and I book a flight to France and I kind of forget about it. But I do think about it, and I think I was on the right track when I initially made a decision in high school as to what I wanted to pursue after I graduated high school.
I think about it often because it's still something that I'm able to do in my current role, and it's to teach. And as an HR professional, that's one of our most important roles, is to continue to develop others and support others' needs. And, even facilitating orientation, I love to see the light bulbs go off when people learn more about hospitality. Or a topic that is not related to hospitality we teach here. We've just recently started implementing diversity, inclusion, and belonging training, which you didn't think would be part of hospitality, but it is. So my role continues to evolve, but I'm always teaching and learning. I learned so much from people that have never been in hospitality and people that have been, in it for years. So I'm so grateful that I've found this career opportunity, that I've been able to still think about the role that I thought I wanted as a child, that it has evolved into something so much more that I could never have imagined.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like I still think about what I wanted to do initially, but I more think about it in the sense that, what did I want out of that job, and is it still pushing me towards those long-term goals? I might not necessarily be in exactly what I thought I was going to be doing, but I think I'm still pushing towards, my long-term life goals. And I think the hospitality industry just changes so often, and like, we're constantly, like you said, learning new things and learning new strategies and ways to improve. So I feel like I'm constantly sharpening my skill set. So I don't feel like I'm ever getting stagnant or ever feeling like I'm not progressing. So yeah, I think about it sometimes, but I think the way that the hospitality industry works, it's constantly giving me more skills to get to my long-term goals.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think that, this industry is so dynamic and, like you said, always changing. I started as a computer science major and I became a web developer for a destination, and have since, grown, like you said earlier about long-term goals. I've just grown so much into like the bigger marketing focus and, gained so many skills along the way. I think it's a really great progression in this industry.
I see another question that I also would like to, you guys are asking some great questions. They're almost rivaling mine. And I'm just like, I forget my list because these are great. Can you guys describe or discuss your strengths and the struggles that you have? I know you guys were describing how dynamic the industry is, which will mean that you are always like having to evolve, even sometimes when you maybe are set in a certain way of doing things. But yeah, I would love to hear the strengths and the struggles. And thank you, Nadia, for that question.
So what I found in what I do, and when I'm in front of guests, so oftentimes I'm in front of 30, 35 people on a bus tour of somewhere in the world. Sometimes I'm on a cruise ship where we might have 100 people or up to 600 people on these ships. And I'm responsible for connecting all of the dots on the history of the Second World War. And what I found is that I'm very good at using that to disarm a situation. Occasionally guests get angry, they're disappointed, something else didn't meet their standards, so they need to discuss it. And I found I'm good at disarming that kind of thing. Where there's been some struggles, and I saw a question come up of, was there ever a time you just wanted to say, I quit? And I did have sort of this cruise on a river in Europe where everything that could have gone wrong would have gone wrong. The water level was too low. The ship couldn't sail the river as it was supposed to. So we had to take a bus to go to all of the places that we were going to look at. And the ship barely moved at all. The service on board started to suffer because they couldn't get their replenishments in time. In fact, on the day we had to move to a second ship because there was a part where our current ship couldn't pass with the water levels. The bus broke down on the side of the road in Germany, and we had to wait 3 hours to get a new bus. And I had hungry people. They were angry. They were aggravated. But every day seemed to bring a new challenge on that one. And there were times I woke up and I'm like, I just want to find the nearest airport and get out of here and just leave them to the ship crew. But we managed to keep things positive you all, sure, you've paid good money for this trip. We'll take care of that in the long run. But you are going to have memories, and we're one day going to be on another program together, and we're going to laugh about this. Can you believe that we didn't find out till later that the bus driver had spilled coffee on his dashboard, and that's what caused this? And in fact, yes, we have. I've met those people again 2 years, 3 years later, and we laugh and have more memories from that trip than some of the flawless ones that have gone on.
Yeah, I'll just say I think one of the biggest strengths of my career in this industry, my segment of the industry specifically, is the community of the people that work here. And it's actually one of the reasons I really fell in love with tourism and hospitality is because, the people in this segment in destination promotion specifically are just so friendly and so communal. And so, we work in hospitality and I think people are very hospitable. I think the word is built in there, which I think is really nice. But yeah, I love all the people that work here and, working with different destinations all over the country. And even though different destination organizations are quote unquote competitors, we have Chicago or DC or Baltimore or whoever, they're technically competitors and that they're all trying to attract visitors, but they're all so friendly and sharing ideas and sharing best practices. And it's just a really great group of people to be with. So I think that's the biggest strength of this segment of the industry, in my opinion. As far as struggles, I think that one thing that this segment of the industry struggles with specifically is, funding and bandwidth. A lot of these organizations that represent cities are either publicly funded or nonprofit, or have funding challenges and staffing problems, and so that's always a challenge. But it's also it's a challenge, but also an opportunity. So I think it gives folks a chance to be resourceful and figure out new ways of doing things, and I think that's really helpful for people in their development as well.
I was going to say the same about the strength of what I do is the community that I work within. I feel like I work in a very supportive community, and I work among a lot of clients between law firms, smaller locally owned businesses, big corporate businesses. So I kind of get to see a lot of different people on the daily, but one thing that everyone has in common is it's a very collaborative atmosphere. I work in a co-working space, so we have a lot of spaces that are communal, so people get to network and meet each other, and I get to see people make connections that they might not have if they weren't working in a space like this. So that's like rewarding for me to see. And I also am able to network and meet people. That's why I'm on the panel today. So things like that are just rewarding to me and exciting. And I would say a struggle that we have is we do have so many clients and we want to please everyone and make sure everyone is so happy that it can get overwhelming sometimes. But then it goes back to the community that I've built and my colleagues that are supportive, and we lean on each other and our strengths and our weaknesses and play on those so that we can make a collaborative team that can help everyone and give everyone the service that they deserve. But having that weakness, sometimes I take on a lot, but it's easy to call on a colleague, call on my network to really help me deliver the service. But that's just a perk of working in this industry. I feel like people are really willing to help, and everyone just has so many different skill sets that combined, I think it makes a good team.
For me, I think my biggest strength is that I lead with my heart, and I make decisions very heart-based, and I'm not apologetic about it. So anytime we put a policy, a procedure, an initiative, I always think about how is it going to affect the team, how positive or negatively. I think of of the people aspect about it, and in relation to challenges, I think hospitality there's so many different challenges that come about. I think the biggest one was with COVID this past few years, and really adapting and the changes that we had to put in place, and really thinking about the team and safety first for our associates and our guests, and really having to be innovative and creative around how we were going to still deliver memorable experiences for our guests. So that has been the biggest challenge, and how it continues to still be part of our lives. That is a challenge for us, in operations, as well as the guest experience.
We've been in it for so long, I actually forgot about it. Especially as it pertains to this industry. So thank you for bringing up COVID and the impact that it has on the day-to-day for you all now. I saw a question earlier that essentially hit on what you were saying earlier, Kelsey, about having imposter syndrome, or essentially just not really knowing if any industry aligns with you. Have you guys ever been in that point of your lives where you didn't know where the route would go, or you didn't know if you were good enough? I know, like I said earlier, Kelsey, you brought up imposter syndrome. So I'd love for you guys to speak on that uncertainty that comes.
Yeah, I was very nervous leaving college because I was like, okay, I studied English. I read books for 4 years essentially and wrote a lot of papers. What am I going to do with this experience? And I had so many different ideas and I was trying to figure it out. But I knew one goal I wanted was to move to a city. I'm from like a small town in Southern Virginia. So I just wanted to get out of my hometown, be somewhere new. So I was like, okay, Washington, DC is the closest. I'll go and see what happens. And I definitely struggled when I first got here because, I mean, the city, any major metropolitan city is going to make you feel like a small fish in a big pond. And so first getting here, I was very nervous, very scared. But that quickly went away when I started interviewing for jobs and meeting people and talking about the little bit of experience I had. I think people are just receptive to people that want to learn and that want to get out there and get experience. So I really just had to put myself out there, and it's very scary. It's very like nerve-wracking at first, but the more you do it, the more you feel comfortable doing it, and you become more confident speaking to what you do and what you're good at. Especially when you start working in, like we keep saying, these environments where you have supportive people, they're going to push you and they're going to tell you what you're good at. And then you take those skills and you use those to get to the next position. So yeah, it's inevitable to feel that way, I would say, but it's the perseverance and just like the overall drive of wanting what you want in life. Use the skills you have. Everyone has a very unique set of skills, no matter what they are. And a lot of times those are adaptable in an industry like ours. A lot of my colleagues have studied very different things. I don't think any of us have the same backgrounds, but somehow we all ended up here and use each other's skills to make this place run the way it does. So just be confident in your skills. They will fit into the right position.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's so important. I mean, for me personally, like I've said, I started off as a computer science major and then sort of grew into the more overall marketing piece of it. But yeah, I mean, I think, when I first started my career, I had no idea where I was going or what I was doing and no idea where I would end up. But now, just kind of a little story, like personally, or this year, we had a little bit of reorganization within our organization, and I sort of absorbed some of the print marketing pieces that we put together for our members. And I mean, I was a computer science major. I've never printed a marketing piece before in my life. But, by just asking questions and talking to people and talking to our vendors and I mean, it's really easy to absorb those specific skills if you're just open to doing it along the way. And like Kelsey was saying, just pick up things along the way and use your skills and put yourself out there. And I think it's a path to being really successful.
There's a few cautionary tales I have about kind of moving too fast with this. So there can be a tendency that when you feel that imposter syndrome to overcompensate by overstating what you're responsible for or what you're doing or relying on your title. I have this title of director and I oversee these things and I get things moving and pieces in place. But I remember back to things that my grandfather had told me of no one is too good to do the job that needs to be done. And, sometimes that means if we check into a hotel, for example, and there's not enough people to help move luggage or get luggage off the bus, I'm moving luggage off of the bus. And if we're at a restaurant and the service is slow or they had people call off or something, I'm not too good to help put beer and wine and food on a table if the restaurant agrees. And there's other times that, I work with some historians, and they're big names in history nerd culture, but they're not, they're not LeBron James, they're not the star athletes or actresses that people would know. But these folks have a certain feeling about themselves and their own status. And I would never try to go in, especially early in my career, and say that I'm on equal footing or I'm in charge of something that they're doing. There's an aspect of listening and growing that comes with this, to not all of a sudden be pushed down farther when you're in that entry level area.
Yeah, I think you bring up some really good points. I think that's really important to keep in mind, especially in this industry too, especially in my segment of the industry specifically. Like I said earlier, a lot of our members and our organization as well, are small budgets or nonprofits in some cases, we're here at Destination International, we're a pretty small but mighty team. There's only, I think, 18 of us right now, which is actually pretty small for the amount of things that we do as an association. So, I mean, my typical day-to-day may include anything from strategic planning for the marketing department down to, data entry and little website updates. We all pitch in everywhere within the organizations. I think, being able to do everything and like you said, just, I forget how you phrased it, but not being too good for the job that's being done, or whatever you said. I forget what you said, but I can't repeat it as well as you said it. But yeah, just being open to pitching in wherever you can and help out wherever you can, I think is really great advice.
Thank you all for those answers. What advice would you give a student with a disability who's entering this field?
I'll take that one. Sorry, Nathan. I would say don't let the disability define you. There are so many opportunities in hospitality and tourism. The field is limitless. So don't limit yourself. And, a lot of times when you look at job descriptions, people want to say like they know 100% of the job, or they can do 100%. That really isn't realistic for anybody. Majority of times when you go for a new opportunity, you don't know a lot of it, and that's the fun part, that you're going to get to learn and be curious about it. So I think for someone with a disability, if they can see themselves doing, somewhat of the position, go for it. Try, take the chance, and don't limit themselves. Don't let that hold you back, because this industry is so open to all different backgrounds and skill sets. The opportunities within hospitality, like you can see all of us, so many different avenues in hospitality. And we are very open-minded to all different, people's backgrounds, or, opportunities that they feel that they're holding for themselves. So please don't let that hold you back by applying.
Yeah, the diverse range of opportunities in this industry, that really is it. I mean, there are people who I would not have writing the text for a brochure, for example. That's not their strength, but their emotional connections that they can have with people, that's actually what people remember when they're coming from a tour. They'll forget where we had them stand or what general we talked about that was here, but they'll remember that emotional connection they had to the people who worked with them, the people who are in the hotels, the restaurants, their tour guides. But then there are those people who do have this sort of maybe a spatial skill. And I work with map makers who work designing the maps that go into our books, or that their strength is looking at a layout of a marketing piece, where the right images go. So this industry really does have something for every skill set that's out there.
As we're wrapping up, my final question for you all, which isn't my own question, unfortunately, but it's a really good one. And I lost it, sorry. Okay, so Alvin asked, what kept you pushing to new limits that you didn't know you could get to?
I'll jump in there real quick. I think it's the mentors that I've had in my career have pushed me and really seen potential in me that I didn't see for myself. And I really treasure and continue to reach out to the mentors that I've built within my career. I make appointments monthly with them so they can, I talk to somebody outside of the day-to-day that I'm in. And the fact that they've, told me to go for something or try this, or, were a little harder on me, I treasure that because that did push me and push myself to see that, I can do this, and they had the confidence in me. So I think the relationships and some of the people that, might, be a little harder on you or, ask you to do a little more, it's because they know you can do it and they're pushing you to do it. So build those mentorships and relationships. I think that's helped me in my career.
I agree with that. I was going to say the exact same thing. My mentors have really helped me. I didn't realize how important it was to have those mentors in place until I got into my industry and started working. Just because, when you're in high school and in college, you're just leaning on your friends and what you do with them. But in the professional world, it is so good to have people who have experienced things and who can help you make decisions. Sometimes I'm looking for a new position, or I'm looking to get a certificate in something that I think might help sharpen my skill set. And I can go to those people and ask those questions and get sage advice from them. And I found that really helpful as I do navigate the professional world. And just I feel like my theme has been my goals, but just keeping your goals in mind and what you really want. And they don't have to be these like very specific goals, but what do you want out of your career? What do you want in life? And how can you align your skills with what you want in life? And as long as you're keeping those at the same pace, then I feel like that's what helps me keep going, and knowing that I'm getting there is all part of like the journey. So yeah, lean on the people around you. They'll push you and they'll help you in the right direction.
Yeah, you all stole mine. I was going to use the exact same word, mentors, for sure. I think for me specifically, I never, in my previous role prior to where I am now, I never really considered myself a strategic thinker. And then I came on board here, and my boss, who is no longer with us currently at this organization, she recently left, unfortunately. But she really, I didn't even know that I needed a mentor until she started like encouraging me to be more of a strategic thinker and planning and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh, having a mentor is really helpful. So yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I would also just say, if you have someone already in your life that you really look up to on a professional level, don't be afraid to reach out to them and ask them for advice, and ask them if they want to be your mentor, because I think people are willing to do that, especially if they're already a role model for you. So don't be afraid to talk to people and reach out to them and ask for help when you need help.
Yeah, I think the looking at the long-term future, at least for me, that's something that keeps me going. And I'll also echo the mentor sentiment that was brought up by all the panelists. And I'm actually interested now, and with the other panelists, I don't know if we have time, Ruben, for us to go through these, but have you come to the point where it suddenly dawned on you that you are a mentor yourself now, that you've had younger colleagues? And I think even for the students watching, you've become a mentor, whether it was people who are now in middle school or people who are entering the high school. Everybody sort of falls into a mentor thing, and making sure that you're giving the type of mentorship that worked for you.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, the short answer to your question is no, I don't really consider myself a mentor. But having said that, I think you're right. I think that people are capable of becoming mentors or mentees without even really realizing it. I mean, like I said earlier, I think I didn't even realize that I was a quote unquote mentee looking for a mentor until like very recently, when I was like, oh, this is really helpful. So I think having that internal conversation and thinking about there are, I'm sure, people that look up to you, especially as you progress throughout your career. I think there'll be people that look up to you even if you don't really realize it. So I think keeping that in mind is really great advice.
It's great when it happens organically and you just build that relationship with somebody and you're feeding off each other's energy and being so supportive of one another. But in hospitality, we assign mentors and mentees in different divisions and departments. So then that collaboration happens globally for us. So I always put my hand in for wanting to be a mentor to somebody because I know how valuable it was for me in my career.
Well, guys, it's time, unfortunately. Thank you all for being a great start of the day. I loved all of the answers you guys gave. And thank you all attendees for these fantastic questions. I barely used the ones I had set because your questions were so good. And while I am jealous, I'm happy enough to express my gratitude. Be sure to check us back, come back to the chat at 10 as we transition into our infrastructure and construction panel. And again, thank you all so much. This was so great. And I loved all the fresh perspectives.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
If
you
anybody
so much
wants to
for
reach
having
out
us.
to me on LinkedIn, my profile is there, it's open. I'd be happy to connect with anybody after this as well. Thank you so much.
I just want to echo what Ruben said. Everyone asked some really great questions. So keep it up in your career and you'll do great things.
Yeah, thank you, and visit New Orleans. There's no place like it on earth.
Thanks so much for having us.